We're your hosts,
Aaron Bacus
and Jason Kindler.
We like to sit down with our guests to hear their journey, their challenges, and how they impact the local community.
So grab a seat, tune in, and let's get inspired by Jacksonville's everyday workforce.
Welcome to Hometown Jacks. Jerald Ingram, it's so good to have you on the podcast. I really appreciate your time.
Oh, appreciate it.
And I see you brought the hardware today, sir.
Yes, it's something I'm proud to represent.
I can imagine so. So tell us about the rings.
Well, this is the 2007 Super Bowl ring, and this is the 2011 Super Bowl ring. We were here in Jacksonville. I've been associated with Tom Coughlin ever since 1997. We got here in 1994.
Wow.
So I moved into Mandarin area, right down to, basically this area. And then after 5 years, I moved up to Hidden Hills area.
Okay.
And, we love Jacksonville. We tried to create something here, which was phenomenal. And it was, it was great. We won in 97 and 96 season. And, it only took us 2 years to start winning here, which was great.
Absolutely.
Everybody loved the fact that Jacksonville was on the map. And I knew a lot of my friends that came to Jacksonville, they were excited to come here because it was so electric.
Right.
The fans were all into it. When we beat Denver in Denver, there were so many people from the airport all the way to the stadium. It was just lifelong memories. And it was a goal of Tom Coughlin here to bring this here because he already had 2 Super Bowl rings.
Uh-huh.
And I had not experienced it. I was with him at Boston College,
okay.
Graduate University of Michigan.
Oh, wow. Is that where you first met Tom?
Yes.
Okay.
He hired me from Ball State.
Interesting.
That was my first coaching job, was at Ball State in Muncie, Indiana. And then I went to Boston College with him.
Okay.
He was a former receiver coach under Bill Parcells at the New York Giants.
Interesting.
And he always talked about how important it is to be the best, represent the best, and that's what he wanted to try and create here and have that opportunity. And we were close here a couple times and should have been. We were probably the best team in the NFL with Fred Taylor, Baselli, and Brunell, and Jimmy Smith, and Keenan McCardle. We had some great players here that we're still very close to. It's amazing. All the years after us, we still do a lot of things together.
Do you?
As a group. We really do. We have our NFL alumni golf outing on Friday.
Uh-huh.
It's for a great cause, and we're always in the community talking to these kids on, what's it like to live the life of a champion and how to grow and be better and be the best that they can be. But Jacksonville has been great to me and a lot of people around here, and that's why a lot of players have chose to stay here.
I hear that story a lot. They come here and they stay. They don't want to leave. Well, I can't wait to hear your story. I want to talk a little bit about where you grew up, where you came from, then obviously go into your NFL, and then talk about what you're doing today, because you're doing some good stuff today. So where'd you grow up?
I'm originally from Beaver, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And high school-wise, from that standpoint. And
you said
my
your dad
was
in
Air
the military?
Force.
Okay.
Yeah, my dad was military. My brother's military. So my dad did over 20 plus years in the Air Force.
Wow.
So we lived 5 years in Bangkok, Thailand.
Wow.
And up Peninsula, Michigan. So we kind of were everywhere. We were nomadic, just like coaches are. So we were everywhere. I was always instilled with discipline. So, matter of fact, even in high school, I had to be in by 9 o'clock. If it was dark, I had to be in. So,
interesting.
The high school dances and parties that happen after the games, no, you better be in that house.
I need to tell that to my 17-year-old. I like that.
Oh, Dad always said, certain good things don't happen, at a certain hour or time.
That's true.
So
I like your dad.
Be at home.
I like your dad. So so you went to high school in Pennsylvania?
Yes, I went to Pennsylvania, which is north of Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Dan Marino and I were in the same class together.
Wow.
Coming out of Pittsburgh.
Okay.
And it was so ironic that played here against Dan in the 62 to 7 win that we had against him. So I asked Dan before the game, I said, why are you still doing this? Here I am coaching, you're doing this. We were in a high school all-star game together, and it's just I'm still trying to chase the Super Bowl.
Right, right.
Just to leave and have a chance at a ring.
Yes.
That's how I get it. But That was Dan Marino's last year, as well as Jimmy Johnson's at the
Wow.
Miami Dolphins.
Interesting history. So you obviously played in high school and you were a running back, right?
Yes, I was a running back, linebacker in high school, and then I had to make a decision what I was going to do. So I was recruited by most of the schools across the country out of Western Pennsylvania, and I chose, between Penn State, Ohio State, and
Wow.
USC, and Alabama. And
What was that like being recruited like that back then? Like,
well, I mean, back then it was a lot different.
Right.
It's legal now. There were a lot of things that went on back in that was underneath the table.
right.
From that standpoint. But I was going to take the character and the integrity of the school
Right.
from the academic standpoint, and I felt I didn't go wrong between Penn State and University of Michigan. So I chose to be with Bo Schembechler.
I mean,
Michigan.
That's amazing. I read that about you. But the schools you're mentioning are just, top tier. So, like, how did you make that final decision? Does it really come down to a lot of the coach at the end of the day?
Well, it came down to the coach, and my dad always said, I want to get to the point where it got crazy, and I wanted him to make the decision. He said, no. This is, you have to live with that decision, not me. You may not like me. If I make the decision, it doesn't turn out. But he wanted me to grow up and be a man and just be accountable. This whole, portal thing and so forth, I know nothing about,
Right.
At Michigan, Bo was so tough, he had a name for it. And the name at Michigan that still exists is those who stay will be champions. And it wasn't for everybody. I came in a class of 36. By springtime, there was only 18 left.
Wow.
So it wasn't for everybody.
And they knew pretty quick.
Yeah,
Like,
and I never, it's not for everybody. It was tough. It was grueling. It made you grow up.
Right.
It made you be a man.
Right.
Bo, he preached about winning. And Nick Saban is very much, he comes from the same tree. It's about developing young men into men and learning how to win on and off the field and do the right things and character building, those kind of things. And they sold the fact that by the time you're here, it's not about the wins. We'll be at the Rose Bowl. We'll be at the Sugar Bowl. We'll be everywhere. But I want you to remember what it takes every day to be a good man.
Interesting. I like that. Going back to when you were being recruited in high school, was it literally like the coach would come to your house, meet with your parents? Like that's the way it used to work?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the coaches came to the house. They came to the school. They call your friends,
Wow.
A lot of other things that would go on with certain schools, you couldn't just, you can't really talk about, but
Right.
you've read about in the books.
Right.
It can get really crazy.
Right.
The phone calls and, my mom and I laugh about it, with certain people. And it starts early. I mean, they started calling me when I was a sophomore.
Wow.
And then in junior year and then senior year, it was like, oh, I get to meet you finally.
Right.
And
Was
some
football in your blood as a family? Did your
No,
dad play?
my
or?
brother was a year older than me.
Okay.
He went to the Air Force.
Okay.
He played, but he didn't have the same type of confidence in himself. But we played multiple sports together.
Right.
My dad was not a sports person.
Okay.
He went into the military early, 2 years of Army, and then the rest in the Air Force. It was just about discipline and growth to him.
Right.
I remember sitting at home in the window, and my room didn't pass inspection, so I couldn't go out to play. Oh, it was inspection time.
I tell you, I really like hearing what I'm hearing from your dad. What did you ever think about the military since your dad was in the military?
Well, I mean, I always had my dream of being NFL as a kid.
So that was your dream.
That was my
it was
dream.
it.
That
Okay.
was my dream. And I played football, basketball, track, even did the diving team.
Okay.
Played with that. But just to compete and do those kind of things, if it didn't pan out for me, I probably would have.
Right.
Because my dad let my brother go to school for 2 years. He couldn't figure out what he wanted to do. And he said, military is not a great life. It's not a bad life.
Right.
It has a structure. And that's, what a lot of kids don't have.
Correct.
And they really need is that structure. I missed the structure since I retired, because, when you're with a guy like Tom Coughlin, he accounts every minute and every second of the day,
Right.
365.
I've always heard about that.
Okay, so when I retired, I was like, "Geez, am I supposed to be somewhere? Am I about to get fired because I'm not there? Where's my guys? I'm still having nightmares at times. Oh, I missed the bus.
That is funny. So let's talk about going to Michigan under Bo Schembechler, legendary coach. Talk about some of the years there. Where'd you guys go? What did you guys do? What did you accomplish? Big wins, things like that.
Yeah, well, it was ironic that in 1979 I was here.
Okay.
I was here in the Gator Bowl, and we played my freshman year. We played North Carolina with Lawrence Taylor.
Whoa.
It was his senior year.
So he was tackling you.
Oh no. He didn't give me the ball. Blocked, but he didn't give me the ball. I was a freshman, but we stayed at the Sea Turtle Inn.
Really?
Which is now is One Ocean or something like
right.
that. Now. And there wasn't a thing here in Jacksonville all to do. So I mean, we just dominated the small few beach bars that were there.
Right.
For the week we were there, we practiced at Fletcher High School.
Oh, really?
And matter of fact,
That's
it was colder here in Jacksonville than it was in Ann Arbor.
Interesting.
That weekend, kind of like the last few weekends we've had. And I was ready for the beach. I had a beach ball. I'm thinking it's going to be great, and it's cold.
Yes.
And then you find out how Division I football is, and you don't think about it as a kid. It's like, gosh, we're practicing Christmas Day, and we're beating each other up, getting hurt. And then you're going back to your hotel room. It's like, gosh, there's nothing sacrilegious anymore about this. Christmas is just another day.
Right.
Because then we went to the Rose Bowl out in Pasadena, and we always left Christmas Day.
Right.
Or the day before.
Right.
And then I went to the NFL, and then it's the same thing. I mean, my family didn't see me Thanksgiving half the time, and they didn't see me Christmas.
Right.
If we were playing, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, or wherever, it ended up on that Sunday, at that time of year. So it's the professionalism of the sport. That's just the way it is.
Sure.
It's a business.
Absolutely.
High school is fun. High school is fun. When you get to, Division I football, you find out it's a business.
I've heard that through multiple athletes. Like my best times were in high school.
Definitely. I still, my best, closest friends are my high school friends and memories and, the camaraderie. And I mean, you grow up. I mean, obviously you grow up, being in college away from mom and dad, but the memories of high school, I still love going to high school games, Bishop Kenny and Bowles.
Absolutely.
Some of these other schools here and there, Reigns and so forth. I like watching the families and parents being there together.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So you finish up in Michigan, had a great time there. Did you know, like, hey, what's next? Like, I want to get into coaching. Like, what was your thought process then?
I never thought I was going to be in coaching. Lloyd Carr was assistant coach and later on became the head coach at the University of Michigan. Well, he took me home one night, and he said to me, he says, we don't have many former players in coaching, let alone African American coaches, because we always
not many former players then, huh?
No, because
seems like a natural
you're always
transition.
selling the fact. The school is always selling. They had a very high graduation rate. That's another reason why I trusted being at Michigan. Same thing at Penn State. I didn't want to just be a athlete. I'm there to be a student athlete. And I was going to go in sales, business, but I never once thought about coaching. So he talked to me about, he felt my personality, how I was there as a player, my ability to communicate with other kids. I used to work the summer camps. He said, you don't think about coaching.
Interesting.
So I did graduate assistantship for one season. And then the offensive line coach, Paul Shadell, who played for Bo at Miami of Ohio, he got the head job at Ball State, and he asked me to go with him.
Interesting.
And there were about 7 of us graduate assistants on that staff. It's amazing. 5 of us ended up in the NFL coaching.
Wow.
Cam Cameron, who used to be head coach at Miami, one-time assistant as well. Mike Turgervac at Carolina.
Well, that's a testament
to
the coaching you guys came up under, man. It's amazing.
Definitely,
Yeah.
but I never once thought about at all thought about.
Well, after
coaching.
your first graduate assistant year, did you like it? Did you I like this?
Well, I did, but to be honest, I was about to leave.
Why is that?
I just didn't, being a graduate assistant is not like being an assistant coach. And when you've been at that university already 4 years, because I got hurt my senior year, so I tried to come back my fifth year option. I chose to go into coaching after that. It just I felt like I've been here forever. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I felt like I might become a spy.
Right.
I didn't want to feel like a spy. So, and Bo wanted me to stay, maybe to carry on one day or whatever. But I needed to know what it's like to be a full-time coach. I even he made a position for me. Paul Schembechler did. And
I imagine it's probably
I got paid $8,000 for the whole year.
For the whole year. Wow.
So I turned down a $40,000 job in sales,
right,
to stay in coaching just to make sure I knew. I wanted to know if this was for me.
Scratch that itch, make sure.
Because I wasn't going to go somewhere else and then come back and say, all right, maybe I'll try it now.
Well, I imagine if you've been a player at a high level and then going down to a graduate assistant, that's a big change, and
No, not at all, because like I said, I was used to the schedule.
Okay.
So you just go from the schedule of being a player, then I went to a graduate assistant, but the players are looking at me like, ooh, you're on the inside. What's going on?
Right.
The coaching staff is looking at me like, what are the players thinking? Okay, remember I said the spy thing?
So nobody knows.
Yeah, nobody knows. So, but you like the perspective of this is what the coaches have been doing, okay? It was a tough university, and then I really found out it wasn't personal. Mm-hmm. It was about growth. It was about pushing you further than you can push yourself is what coaching is.
Right.
The ability to make somebody do something they can't do for themselves is coaching.
Right.
And so I learned an awful lot doing that, and then talking to other kids, I was like, you know what? I kind of like inspiring other children and other kids and getting them to be able to do something that I know and believe in.
Right.
So that from that standpoint, that was great.
So you went to Ball State. How long were you there?
I was there 6 years.
Wow, you were there a long time.
Yeah. Matter of fact,
as a running back,
as a running tight end, I started off with tight ends and offensive line, and I went to running backs.
Okay.
And coached some good players there, and one player, Bernie Parmalee, played Miami Dolphins for me. He was running back coach here for 3 years with Peterson.
Interesting.
And but he played with Dan Marino in Miami.
Okay.
And had a successful career, and he got into coaching, and he's been all over the place. He's still the running back. He's a running back coach at Carolina Panthers.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, his daughter's my godchild. Yeah. So you meet really a lot of family, friends, and everything else.
Absolutely. So Ball State to
Boston. Now what happens is I go to Boston College. Tom Coughlin wins the Super Bowl in New Jersey, in New York. And Paul Schembechler and Tom know each other and coached together at Syracuse. So that was their connection. Even when Paul was at the University of Michigan and Tom Coughlin was assistant coach at Green Bay Packers, they used to get together. So he didn't know at that time, he didn't know a lot of assistant coaches in college. Mm-hmm. And I almost turned the job down.
Whoa.
I love the guy I work with. I said, I don't know anything about Boston. What the hell?
Right.
Boston. I know nothing about Boston. And I got there. I enjoyed it. So he actually made me take the job. He says, it's time for you to move on.
Right.
And build after that.
Well, 6 years is a long time in a spot.
Oh, Tom took care of me.
Yeah.
And I learned. I've always.
Did you and Tom hit it off right off the bat?
Oh, definitely. And you don't have a choice. But I've always been around people like Tom, so I didn't know anything different. Mm-hmm. Bo Schembechler, my dad being military, Tom has a high appreciation of service, of all sections of service, and there's a chain of command that he believes in. And, I grew up upstate New York, and he grew up upstate New York as well.
Interesting.
So we had some commonality there.
Right.
But I think he respected, like you had said, how I was raised in the military chain of command and Bo Schembechler, you know, that we were going to be in the same page of trying to get everybody on the same page on what it takes to win.
Interesting. Very cool. So that had to be a pretty big thing when he gets the NFL job.
Yeah.
And then
It was interesting.
Well, like when that happens, are you kind of like just waiting? Like, are you going to take me? Are you going to take me? Kind of thing, or how does that work?
Well, actually, what happened was we took a break. We had a recruiting weekend, so we had no idea what was going on here in Jacksonville.
No idea that he was talking to
it's another
Jacksonville.
story in
Nothing.
itself. I was on a fishing trip,
Okay.
so he gave us 5 days off, and he said, "Staff, go do what you want to do." So I went on a fishing trip to Western New York, and I was doing some salmon fishing in the winter.
Mm-hmm.
So the lodge I was staying in didn't have a phone, so they were outdoor lodges. So I see these lights flashing on my window. I'm like, what the heck is going on? You know? So it ends up being the state trooper.
Oh boy.
So they come knocking on the door and it says, "Hey, your wife has been trying to get a hold of you. You need to call her as soon as possible." All right. So I went from sweating to different kind of sweat.
Right.
So she says, so the people are calling me and saying she has no idea what's going on either. She hadn't even known that. You know, someone called her to get a hold of me.
Right.
So I finally make the phone because she says, "You got to call Tom." Okay. So I called Tom. Now it's like midnight. I can't believe he actually answered the phone because he's like on a clock.
Right.
So he tells me he took the job here in Jacksonville. They're excited about getting a new franchise and everything else. Everything is new. We had no idea this was going on. It was such a hush about everything about this thing. I didn't even knew it existed that Jacksonville was thinking about a new NFL team at that time. I was just thinking about my own job.
Right.
In Boston.
Right.
So Tom says, "I got to have you back." I said, "Tom, I just got here. I caught one fish today." "What do you mean I got?" "Well, I need you back so we can address the team and say goodbye and do this." I said, "Really?" So I still wasn't even thinking about, pinching myself. I'm in the NFL. I'm like, if you ask me to coach with you, I'm coaching. That's my job.
Right.
Other than that, I'm taking care of the family.
Right.
It didn't hit until we got here. That's when it hit.
Well, but did he tell you on the phone that I'm taking the job with?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
and
He
obviously
said
I want you to come
he
with me.
couldn't take everybody, but he said, "I want you to come with me."
Well, obviously that had to feel pretty good. That's a pretty big honor, I would think.
Yeah, I guess so. Like I said, I was a young coach, excited to still be coaching.
Right.
So, I mean,
it didn't take much to make you happy.
No, it didn't take much. It's like I could have coached on the moon. After being 3 years with him, he was exactly what I was used to. Okay, I was used to that type of directness. With my dad, my coach. My high school coach, and just everybody in my life was about character, hard work, discipline, and doing the things that you have to do to be great. So I trusted him. I believed in him. I believed in Tom's purpose. He wanted to show that we can win here.
Wow. I mean, that had to be an amazing feeling, like your dream is starting to come to reality. Yeah. So what's it like getting to Jacksonville first and being the first to do everything? Like, you're the first team in Jacksonville. There's nothing set up. Like,
it was pretty exciting. Just like you said, there was nothing set up because we tore the Gator Bowl down that I had played in. So we worked in the trailers. So when they tore the Gator Bowl down, we worked in the trailers, while they were constructing the new stadium and everything. We held our workouts over at Bishop Kenny.
Oh, wow.
Some of our first franchise people. Randy Jordan and Greg Huntington and some of those guys that played for us, our first selected, and then we had the expansion draft. The NFL allowed us to go through the league and actually watch them play for a year So the small staff that was hired at that time,
So you had a year to build.
so
the
we
team.
had a year to build.
Very interesting.
Yeah, so we got a chance to evaluate a lot of players, prepare for the expansion draft.
And tell me again what the expansion draft was. What it's different than the normal draft.
Well, the expansion draft was the group of people that they, were each team allowed to put a pool together to develop two teams. Us and Carolina were the two new teams. So, Desmond Robinson and Mark Brunell and Keenan McCardle. So they had their group of players that, okay, you could select these people for the draft
Okay.
and then go from there.
Okay.
So
Was like
plus your normal draft plays.
Right.
So you had the expansion first and then you had your regular draft.
okay. So you got to pick first in the draft with the expansion draft, and then you had your regular draft after that.
Right. So the expansion draft was just us in Carolina.
Interesting. But you got to go first before all the other teams.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Well, that was, like I said, that was a separate of
Got
the
it.
regular draft.
Got it. Wow, that's amazing.
And we were able to get 2 picks in the draft as well. And that's how we ended up with Tony Baselli and James Stewart in the first round.
Wow. So you're building the team for a year. You're assembling all the talent.
Yes.
You got it together. I'm assuming that's also hiring coaches.
Yes.
Did you know you were going to be the running backs coach? That was your,
Yes.
Okay. So you knew that from day one.
Yeah, I knew the position. And
Okay.
yeah, Tom had to decide how he was going to fill his offensive coordinator and some of the other positions. So
Okay.
he looked for some, veteran people that he knew. And, Kevin Gilbride was offensive coordinator. Nick Nicolau was a tight end coach. Pete Carmichael, he was with us as a receiver coach. Mike Mazer was an offensive line coach. And then he had to hire his defensive staff as well.
Interesting.
So he went through the league and, just like, there's 10 teams available that were available now.
Right.
So
Interesting. Well, another football player I've had on the podcast, Mark Edwards. I had texted him before
Yeah.
this. I was interviewing you.
I worked
and
Mark Edwards in Notre Dame. I worked him out.
Well, that's exactly what he said. I go, was he your coach? He goes, no, he interviewed me at the combine. And I was like, what an interesting piece
Great
of history. Because he ended up coming back here, and you must.
We've done some functions here together.
Oh, really? Okay,
Yeah,
great.
I like his son's a great player at Bulls.
Unbelievable
Great,
player.
young
Boy,
player.
man, unbelievable player. But yeah, what an interesting piece of history. So going back to the Jags, you've gone through the year, you've got your team assembled. Can you remember that first game? The first game.
The first game. Well, the first game was was at the Hall of Fame in Canton.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, it was us in Carolina.
Okay, that makes sense.
I don't think we won that game. I show my age every day, but I don't think we won that game. But it was the first.
We'll get back to the story in just a second, but while you're listening, here's something you should know if you live in Northeast Florida. If you're self-employed and trying to buy a home, it's not as hard as you might think. We work with business owners, freelancers, and creatives every single day. People who don't fit the traditional housing mold, and we're here to let you know that we have real loan programs that make homeownership possible. We've helped tons of local business owners and creatives get approved using flexible loan options that work for them and their business. First Coast Mortgage Funding is proud to sponsor Hometown Jacks right here in Jacksonville.
Being a new team, were you rusty? I mean, or did that not really a thing? Like you're ready to go. Like you're competing from day one. Like you didn't really have a disadvantage of being a new team because you had that year to put it together.
Right, we had, but we were not thinking of it. We're thinking of it. We're always trained and drilled to, coaching is your ability to teach and get these guys ready and make sure they understand that they're professionals. And every year, we've always thought that we have a chance to win the Super Bowl. That's how we sell it. That's how we preach it. That's how we prepare for it. And Tom Coughlin was setting a standard, and it started at the top.
Right.
And he was hands-on management about everything. But we were always coaching that we had a chance to win the Super Bowl, period.
Interesting.
And that's why it took us 2 years to, we're in the playoffs the next year, which is unheard of.
Unheard of.
And that's why Liam has done such a great job. I mean, we were like, oh, wow.
But it's just interesting you say that because it seems like that would be the norm. Like if you're a coach of a team, you expect that. But from what I'm hearing from you, that's not the norm.
No, it doesn't. Everybody wants to, but they might know how to. You know, as far as the demands and making sure everybody's on the same page, getting the right players on each team is really critical. We can coach it, we can put people in the right position, but the players have to play it.
Right.
And they have to train. It's a year-long process, and it's a lot. It's a sacrifice. You don't see your families. The sacrifices for your bodies. Guys break limbs like they're nothing.
Right.
Sounds like pencils half the time. But they also have family issues as well.
Right.
But it's a long process. So when you do win the Super Bowl, the first thing, you have a rocky moment. And kind of like you saw the other day, with the head coach looking up at the stars and seeing everything go off. That's how you feel.
Interesting.
I'm looking for my wife and son. Like, where are they? They're coming out of the tunnel. They're coming out of the stands. You just want to hold them and say, "I'm sorry," because it's a strong sacrifice.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a waiting to exhale moment.
Interesting.
You're the best of the best for that 2025 season, 2007 season, and they can never take it away from you. And what happens in that is a lot of times you'll never see the same person again.
Right.
Obviously Mike Strahan decides to retire the next year, so he's not on our team. You trade a player out, or you cut a player. That's the NFL. NFL means not for long.
Right.
But that 1 year that it took to come together, and you always got to talk about the 12th man as far as the fans. The fans are all in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? The parade and all of that, they're all in. Everything that happened through the year, I don't care if they didn't like you in the beginning of the year, but they love you at the end of the year. It doesn't matter.
Right.
Okay? It's all exciting.
Right.
And when that buzzer goes off, you're the best, and your city feels so great. But growing up in Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh Steelers, they carry that terrible towel everywhere they go. Steelers represent everywhere.
Right.
And that whole small market thing with Sean Payton, I was like, come on now.
Well, I imagine culture is a big part of that coming together in that year, right?
Oh, definitely.
So, I would imagine that somebody that doesn't fit that culture, you zero in on, and maybe they don't last.
We're going to do it. This is the way it's going to be.
Right.
And not just Tom Coughlin, but back in the day, Wayne Weaver and Dolores Weaver were community people. And it was in the contracts for a lot of our players to be involved in the community.
Interesting.
Okay, so it wasn't just by choice, because what happens is a lot of players will go to their homes and do their things, their hometowns and this and that. They wanted to make sure players here, while they're here, we're going to try and represent the Jaguars, the NFL Shield, out in the community and help these kids and families be excited, grow, be better. It was bigger than just playing a game.
Right.
And
Which
they
is
were on
even-
the same page as Tom on making this city a landmark.
Interesting. Which is even more important when you're starting a brand new franchise in a new city that's set the standard for that. So, second year, you make it to the playoffs. Amazing. How long were you in Jacksonville?
I was here, 9 years?
9 years?
Yeah.
And remind me of the history. So, Tom left and then went to New York right after, or no?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, no, not right after. He sat out a year.
Okay.
So
what did you do that year?
I sat out a year.
Okay.
I talked to, I turned down a few jobs in college. I turned down, I talked to Nick Saban at LSU at that year.
Mm-hmm.
And I was 5 years away from full retirement. And I said, Nick, I don't mind recruiting and doing this and that and so forth. But, something about being in the NFL and my dream was to be able to win a Super Bowl, because that's all Tom talked about, and that's what I didn't know anything about it, but I wanted to be a part of it.
But you had an idea Tom was probably going to coach again, or no?
Well, we did. Tom and I got together quite a bit and watched film. And Tom loves watching film. He loves the game. Even though you're head coach and you're busy about doing things, he loves the X's and O's. And we would get together and, write notes and look at players. And to be honest, he was, there was talk in Notre Dame and Nebraska, and he might have to go back into college, which was fine. He was okay with that as long as he can coach.
Right.
And then that came up with it came up, and he called me and he says, "Hey, the New York Giants job might be opening up." I was like, "Really?" Wow.
You got my attention.
Yeah. I just had a loyalty and a love for what Tom was about.
That's awesome. So you skipped the year, get the
Yes.
job at New York.
Yes.
Okay. So how long did it take you to win your first Super Bowl there?
Well, obviously, we were there in 2004, and then it took, 3? Yeah.
3 years. Wow.
Yeah. So
What's it like coming into a team that you're the new coaching staff, the new everything? That has to be a big kind of change right off the bat, especially New York, where it's a tough place.
Well, the thing is, they have history there. It's a great organization there. The Tisch and the Maris. There's a strong history there, kind of like the Pittsburgh Steelers. There's a strong history. At that time, they only had 2 Super Bowls, and we brought 2 more.
Right.
Pittsburgh had 6. But the history is established. They're just trying to get back to where they were. And they wanted, Tom hadn't been there as assistant coach. They knew the type of person and the direction that they had, and instilling the toughness, the standard, everything that they wanted is what Tom was all about.
Interesting.
So when you walk around in the Lawrence Taylors and the Carl Banks and all those great players that they had there walk around, and Mike Strahan is a phenomenal leader, phenomenal, great to have around. Love talking. He makes everything right.
Wow.
He's the extension that you need, so the players can understand where we're trying to get at.
What were some of the bigger name players in that first Super Bowl? Strahan.
Well, we had Eli Manning,
Right.
and I like to say the Manning.
That was the famous
Manning family.
That was the famous catch, right?
Oh yes,
Yes.
Tyree with the
Yes.
helmet catch. Yes, that in itself was a story. Tyree had a terrible practice that week, and he might have dropped every ball in practice, but he wasn't going to let anybody down in the game. He scored the first touchdown, let alone the helmet catch, and one other play. But he caught every ball in that during the game. But during the week, it was like, are you kidding me?
Literally just like dropping balls, like
Oh.
can't even understand it.
Oh yeah, because when you get to the playoff time, everything ramps up.
Talk about that. They always say that on TV, but what does that really mean to the layman like me?
You playoffs,
Yeah. Yeah.
you actually have a chance to get there. That's what.
So it becomes real.
Oh, it totally becomes real, and you do not want it to stay. It's a single game elimination. It's one game, you're out. So it's not like the rest of the season trying to figure out how to get there. You're there. You just don't want it to end. So in that year of the 2007 year, we went on the road in the playoffs.
Okay.
So we came to Tampa Bay and played Tampa. So we were a wild card team.
Right.
We were the bottom end of it all. New England Patriots was undefeated at that point in time with Tom Brady. And we win in Tampa. Then we go to Dallas, which they won the division in our division. Dallas is Dallas. And he tried to make it look like we didn't deserve to be there. And he's telling his team that, let's bypass this game to the Green Bay game next week. And we were second half, we weren't going to have any of that.
Right.
So we beat Dallas in Dallas, and then we go to Green Bay, and it's 27 below.
27 below.
Oh, players were throwing water up in the air, and it turned into snow.
27 below.
But I tell everybody, if you want to experience an NFL town, which looks like a college town like it was here back in the day,
Green Bay's it, huh?
Green Bay's it. You got to go to Lambeau Field. The history, the people. They were firefighters holding the flag, and some of the women fighters had nothing on but bikinis under their overalls.
Oh my gosh.
And it was
27
that
below.
cold. But it's like that every week. I mean, you go to a Green Bay game, and I mean, because they're all in, because they're all in on that situation there. But when we won that game, not one fan left the stadium. They just sat there in shock.
What are you teaching your running backs when it's that cold? Like what are you talking about?
Well, during that week, we were talking about hitting them. I said, you're not going to be cold if you're running around. So make sure you run around and find work to do. So the thing is, I was telling the running backs, because I had Brandon Jacobs, he was 6'4", 265. He's actually bigger than the other kid. But, you're just trying to deliver as much pain as you can. And can we run the ball? We don't know if it's going to be snowy or not. But you want to make sure that we can show our physical toughness. And I've always taught from the standpoint that the game starts with us as runners, and we hope to end the game with us as runners.
Right.
And you want to shorten the game as much as you can, with the clock and running the ball. But we're going to show them that our attitude, we're here to be here.
Right.
We've already won these other games.
Right.
So like I said, when you're in the playoffs, you got as good a chance as anybody else.
Was that team considered a running team over pass, or more of a passing
we were
team?
a great combination.
Right.
We were always a strong combination running pass. Eli could throw the ball, but we'd set up the play action and those kind of things. But, Tom always wanted to start with the men up front. The offensive line, Tony Baselli's, Leon Searcy's, those kind of things. We got to win people up front. And the backs have got to establish, the attitude of the game. The running back can affect offense and defensive players on the sideline. They will watch what we do and how we approach the game.
Really?
They will get excited about what we do. Because, one, they're standing there getting a break. And we're running the ball. Okay? So they're standing there, and, it's not like 3 downs and out. Oh, I didn't get a break. Now, that clock keeps moving.
Right.
But the attitude of the game makes everybody want to step up.
Right.
So that's the thrill of my position, and being able to help out and protect the quarterback and help the offensive linemen so the quarterback can get the ball off to the receivers. Because we're all in on this thing. It doesn't matter who gets the credit or the name on the jersey. It's the win.
Interesting. So you win at Green Bay.
Yes.
And was that then the Super Bowl next, or
That's
am I
when
missing a
it's-
game? And remind me who you played.
And in that situation, in that game, when we finally won that game, kicked the field goal, because he already missed 3 or 4. Okay. But he kicked the final field goal to win, and Brett Favre was the quarterback at the time. Everybody called me and said, hey, you're going to the Super Bowl. Is Tom Coughlin okay? He had his mask down the whole time. So his face was beet red, and they thought, everybody thought he had frostbite.
Right.
It was like, why did he do that? I said, I have no idea, but we're going to the Super Bowl.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
What did that feel like, that minute?
At that minute, it felt,
Give me,
you almost have that Super Bowl moment because you're excited that now it's finally down to two teams. You're there.
Wow.
Now let's find. No one thinks we can do it because now New England Patriots they're undefeated still.
Right.
We played them earlier, and 5 weeks before then. We lost at home. Everybody thought we should sit our players out. Everybody was thinking they were going to sit their players out. We played the game like it was normal. That's what we do, and that's what Tom, he talked to the team about. They agreed, and we played that game, and that might have been better than the Super Bowl.
Wow.
That game. It was a great game.
Interesting.
Their coaches came to us and said, we might be playing against each other in the Super Bowl. We ended up playing against each other.
Wow. Amazing.
But that whole week of preparation for the Super Bowl and for the fans, you hope one day Jacksonville gets a chance to experience it.
Right.
I always heard Tom talk about it, but to live it, feel it, and be in it, it's great for the fans. The parties, there's a lot of things that go on during that week.
Is it difficult for a player and a coach to prepare with all the distractions?
No.
No.
I will say, I'll give you one example as far as players go, because you have to make sure the players go to their interviews and meetings. There's a set time, so we have to make sure they get out of a meeting. And if they miss that meeting, for a player, it's like $50,000.
Whoa.
Okay, so you ain't trying to miss that meeting. Okay, so and then you walk into the ballroom, and there's about 100 or 200 or more press people, and everybody's got a mic, and they're sitting at a table, and each table is full, and each player is, it's a lot of madness going on. And then, you have the press day, and that's huge in itself.
Right.
It's just a lot.
It's a lot to squeeze in.
But what you end up having to do, you have to teach these guys how to handle the 30-minute halftime. And a lot of times you have to take a break in your practice for about 30 minutes because it's a long time compared to what halftime is during the season.
Interesting. I didn't even think about that.
30 minutes.
It's a long time.
It's a long time.
Yeah.
So you really have to rehearse every little detail.
Wow.
But you're preaching to the players, don't get caught up in the moment. You can get caught up in the moment one more game. After that last game, you can do whatever you want. And I'm telling you, that Super Bowl party after, until 6 in the morning, you hope they get on the next plane in the morning going back to New York, to have that parade. And then when you have parade, when you win in New York, you have two things to go to. You have the parade downtown in the city of New York, but you also go into your own stadium in New Jersey, so you have two to hit.
Wow.
And guys are still trying to go get over their hangover from the night before.
Right.
But it's a lot, but it's the best, greatest week
I imagine
ever experienced.
I didn't even think about that. Having a parade in New York City, in the city, that's special. That's just so unique.
It's so, and then the year after, I have to say this one thing. I go to Tom Brady, being a Michigan guy. I said, Tom, I really don't know how to act. I said, I've been to 2 Super Bowls, and I don't know what it's like to lose, and both of them against you. And I said, you being a Michigan guy, you're not going to hit me. So he chuckled.
Oh, man, that's funny. So you win the Super Bowl, skip a year, you win it one more time. How was the second one sweeter than the first one, or just completely different experiences, or what?
It's different experiences.
Yeah.
The first one was out in Arizona, and it's like being at a bowl game, but plus.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The media hype is even higher.
Right.
Being in a Super Bowl compared to probably what a national championship would be, but still the same.
Yeah.
You're the best of the best in college, but you're the best of the best in your field in football.
Wow.
In the Super Bowl. But it's a different situation. So now we go to Indianapolis and hold it. Now, it was kind of nice. They had us downtown in the city of Indianapolis, so everything was right there and 2 blocks away from the stadium. So that made it really, really nice.
Logistics
the families really enjoyed that.
Right.
Probably a little bit more.
Right.
Now, Arizona, we were out. They had the swimming pools. The weather was great, so the families hung out at the pool while we were practicing and going to meetings. So we're trying to just stay focused, and keep the players focused.
Wow.
On the task at hand, because they don't want to slip it. Don't want it to slip away.
That is just such amazing. And you're a guy that strikes me as you realize how fortunate, to experience that. There's a handful of people in history that have ever experienced, and you did it twice.
It was a blessing.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. And we had, the hard part is you always want more.
Well, of course. Yeah.
You want more. We would have loved to have 2 here. We won here and went to New England. They turned the lights out on us. So we lose that one. And then later on we come back again, and we lose 3 times to Tennessee Titans and 2 division games. That was the hardest year of my life.
Yeah.
We lose 2 games, division games, and both of them to Tennessee.
Oh, man.
And then we played the AFC Championship game here.
Mm-hmm.
Not thinking that, all right, well, fine, they got lucky. But 3 times?
That's tough.
It was hard.
Well, I want to get into what you're doing now, and I have some questions to wrap it up on advice that you have. But I want to go some rapid fire, just some quick questions for you. But the thing that comes top of your head. So, best player you ever coached?
Fred Taylor.
Fred Taylor. Interesting. Toughest environment to play in on the road in the NFL?
At one time, I would say Kansas City.
Kansas City. Interesting. One rule you would change in the NFL if you could? Well, do we need a whole nother podcast for that?
That's a whole nother
Maybe
deal.
that's.
If I had to say one, to be honest, I would say the hits on the quarterback. They've ruined the game on that one.
Right, I got you. Do you remember your most difficult loss?
There's been a few of those. I can't.
You don't want
I
to
don't
bring
want
them
to put
back?
anybody on the spot.
Interesting. Okay. So I'm a young kid and my dream is like yours. I wanted to be in the NFL and I'm playing in high school. I'm a decent player. What advice do you have for me? Like, how do I get to that next level? What advice do you have for the young Jerald Ingram when he is in high school and that's his dream?
Learn to be consistent and disciplined.
Okay.
If you can be consistent, that's the hardest thing for human
Consistent.
nature at doing. If that's your purpose, don't slip and say, hey, I'll skip today. It's okay to skip today. That was enough. No, it's not enough. Okay? But if you can be disciplined, you're going to get better throughout the year. Just by being disciplined alone and understanding that everything in life is conceptual. If you can understand the concept, you will block everything else to a sacrifice.
Interesting. Does some of that have to do with being consistent while nobody's watching? You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Not just obviously being a great player in practice and all that, but also outside of practice.
Oh, definitely. I mean, when you talk about all the character and having integrity and all those kind of things, yeah, that does come into part, But even those who aren't, the great players find a way to be consistent all the time.
Interesting.
They work hard all the time.
Is it fair to say that great players aren't always the most talented?
Yes.
It's just so
Definitely.
amazing. You hear that all the time.
You saw that in the Patriots, for years. Not that they had all the greatest players, playing for Brady, but you had the leadership. You had set the standard, but you had players who knew how and believed in the sacrifice and the hard work, and they were going to be consistent in what they do and bring to the table every single day, every single play. Details matter.
Right.
I don't care if you're a football player, a garbage man, or anything else. Right. You want to be great at what you do, be detail-oriented.
Interesting.
Everything you do. Find out as much as you can on what it took somebody else to be great.
Interesting.
So spend more time not thinking that you have arrived, that I'm going to spend my time that I can get better.
Interesting. Well, you've evaluated a lot of talent in your career. Like, can you go to a high school game now and see a player and you're like, wow, he could really go to all the way?
Oh, definitely. That's
you
what
can
I
see
love.
that in an instant.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, you can see it, but that
Can you
doesn't
see it
mean,
the other way?
That doesn't mean that he has the self-discipline to make sure he does it every day at the next level.
Right.
Because the pressure goes on. I remember Kyle Brady, when we brought Kyle Brady in, and I don't know if you've ever had Kyle Brady on,
I have not, but I know he is.
Huge physique,
right.
He's a lawyer now, and a great person, but his character is phenomenal. I remember going to a Penn State game to have him to recruit to watch him play. And it was like The Blind Side. He blocked the guy into the bench. Okay? Now, they booed him going to the Jets. Now, you have to understand how that feels.
Yes.
Okay? All of a sudden, you go from being this All-American, whatever, and then in the draft, they boo you because they chose to take a tight end. Okay? Man. That's one thing. Let alone you're under a microscope like you've never been before. It's just like players here, there'd be the same 3 or 4 beat writers here. I go to New York, every practice there's almost 50 or 60 writers there, just because the market is different.
Right.
Okay? So he's up there and he says, you know what? It took my confidence away. You start to question yourself. So your mind is, affects you more than your body. You can have the physique, the speed, and all this, but the criticism and everything else that goes with it, the pressure, the expectation level, it's hard on guys.
Right.
Not everybody can handle that.
Interesting.
You know, we've seen guys that quarterbacks that could throw great in college, but in the NFL mentally can't handle, and all of a sudden they can't throw from here to there.
Wow.
So the mental game is as high as the physical game in the NFL.
So when you see a kid in high school, you're like, yep, he's got all the physical characteristics. There's no question at all. But where's the mind going to end up?
That's it. Where's the mind? Where's the hard work? Is he willing to pay the price every single day?
Interesting.
And not be, some people, and we're not talking about bad people.
Right.
We're just talking people that just are mentally strong and focused to understand that I have to, when it's time to go to work, it's time to go to work.
Right.
You put all your problems behind you for 2 hours, 3 hours. Okay, you can't do anything about that.
Right.
Okay, you'll handle that in another way. Life is about solutions. It's not about the gripes. It's not about the complaining and those kind of things. Those kind of things that weigh you down and put you down. Life is about finding the solutions as fast as you can and move on and be successful.
I like it. Well, let's talk about what you're doing now. You are on. Do you have your own show on 1010? I know you're on 1010 a lot.
No, I do not have my own
Okay.
show. No,
Okay.
I'm on there with Ryan Hacker and Leon Cersei. We do the After Dark.
Oh, very
He
nice.
does the After Dark.
Right.
We do the post-game show.
Okay, that's awesome. That's got to be fun to do.
Oh, it's a lot of fun.
How long
Get
you
a
been doing
chance.
that?
I just started this year.
Okay.
Dave Campo did it for years here.
Yeah.
And former head coach Dallas Cowboys, and we were at a golf outing, and he threw my name in the hat because he was going to move closer to his family that are in Dallas. He came back here because his house, they loved Jacksonville, and his house was here. But once they started having grandkids, it's like, oh, geez, we got back for it. So when he told them that he was going to leave, and he mentioned he thought, I would be a decent replacement at it. And I enjoyed talking ball and, sitting around because my wife is tired of listening to me tell stories. She's been there since, how many times are you going to say that?
Well, that's got to be a fun thing to do. And what else are you doing? I've read a lot about you that you really like being involved with the community and kids.
Yes, I work with the NFL Alumni Association here. And there's a great group of people and former players and cheerleaders as well. And we speak to the kids in different schools here in town. And we try to stay involved as much as possible. Give something back, for a charitable cause.
Yeah.
So that's very enjoyable.
Because you've always loved working with kids.
Oh,
so you said that in the beginning.
Yeah, and a lot of these guys do. There's a lot of former players here in town that are, because once their life is over, I mean, if you are fortunate enough to stay in the NFL in your 30s, I mean, you're really blessed.
Right.
So it's going to end one day, so you got another 30 years left. Okay? So you can ride on that money all you want, but it's going to end if you do that.
Right.
Plus, you want to grow, do things. You want to, the more you help, the better you become as a person.
Right.
So a lot of these guys have done that here in town, and you're just proud of what we've established here as Jaguars and former players with the shield on our back, and we just try to make a difference.
You were the first. Really special. Well, Jerald, this was awesome. Thank you for spending your time. Thank you for coming to Hometown Jacks. I can't wait for this episode. Thank you, sir.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. Anytime.
The Hometown Jacks podcast is recorded and produced by First Coast Mortgage Funding, located in the heart of Jacksonville. Do you want to be our next guest? Visit our website at hometownjackspodcast.com. We can't wait to hear your story.